Good evening, everyone. Mr. Brownfield, how are you, sir?
Not too bad at all. Thank you much, Dave Toppin. Good to see you this evening. And I think we're in for an absolutely stonking show. Loads and loads to talk about this evening.
Oh, absolutely. Here, you know what? It's nice to get out of the TMO truck once in a while, and
Absolutely.
saying a big hello to our Night King, doing the biz on the forums, Mr. Quigley. How are you? Look, welcome everybody to tonight's Ulster Rugby Roundup show. WhiteWalkers chat and Craic, as part of the Threebod Rugby Group. Tonight, it's brought to you in conjunction with Kanaka Biltong, Hellbent, Auto Door Solutions by Nigel Quigley, Farmageddon Brewery, and Go Low Rugby. And our show every month we try and bring you the best of what's happening here in Ulster, including the grassroots provincial game, European women's schools, and much more. Tonight we're going to be looking at our latest win against Scarlets, our European games, Schools Rugby, and also have a look towards the Six Nations along with our special guest tonight, Ulster Ireland legend Willie ANDERSON and the brilliant Ilse VAN STADEN. I'm David Topping. This is Chris Brownfield, and you're very welcome to the show.
It's been a while, but I'm coming out of my shell. And I never thought I would fall in love with someone just like you. And nobody here now, I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And nobody here now, but I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And I hear you calling.
That's quite an intro.
Absolutely. The best money can buy, Mr. Brownfield, you know it. Unfortunately, tonight, though, we do have to start with some sad news. We've learned today of the passing away of the great Tom Kiernan of Cork Constitution and Ireland. Tom played for Ireland between 1960 and 1973 and won 54 caps. He captained Ireland on 24 occasions. Tom led the British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa in 1968 and was instrumental in helping Ireland win the first Triple Crown since 1949. He also coached the Munster team that beat the All Blacks 12-0 on the 31st of October 1978. Tom served as the president of Ulster Rugby in 1977-78, president of the RFU in 88-89, president of Cork Con in 91-92 in their centenary, and also served on IRFU committees and was inducted into World Rugby's Hall of Fame in 2015 in recognition of his services to international rugby. To his family and friends of Cork Con, we extend our sincere condolences and may he rest in peace. And as well as that, unfortunately, we have to report the passing of one of our friends of our show, Mr. Jacques Henning, also known as Yellowcap. He was a sports presenter, the senior editor at South Africa's Supersport, and also the vice president of South Africa Deaf Rugby. He ran his own weekly live rugby chat show and featured on a number of our own Threebod South Africa shows, Driebakke, Ball and Blitzpod. And again, we pass our condolences to his family and all his friends. Well, anyway, Chris, let's have a wee look at where we're at the minute. Obviously, we got hit with the news that Jacob Stockdale's out for the rest of the season after having that surgery a couple of weeks ago. But on better news, we've had some re-signings.
We've had some fantastic signings. It's great to see. As a scrum half, I am just absolutely delighted to see V. Shanahan sign again. That's absolutely great news. Let's be honest, it's been quite a year really for Ulster. I think I heard Dan McFarland saying earlier in the week that it's an absolutely phenomenal incentive to see so many of our existing players want to stay with the club, and that has got to be a credit to the senior management team, the Bryn Cunninghams, the Johnny Peterys, that the guys are actually looking forward to actually playing towards silverware. And certainly if they carry on this vein, there's no reason why this season can't be the start of that, and let's just kick on and maybe bigger things to come. But I'm actually really hopeful, if we do keep our young talent coming through, if Gavin Hogg and Willie Falloon can keep driving through our youngsters through the academy in the same way as Willie and Kieran did, I can only see big things from the future of our club going forward.
And of course, there's been a wee bit of chat about him. Ben Moxham has been promoted straight away up to development contract and has also signed a senior contract for a year as well.
Yeah, it's obviously no surprise. Big Ben, as I'm going to call him from my own. Big Ben has certainly been absolutely phenomenal. I know he's been playing out of position in the last game against Scarlets, but you know what? He is a real talent, and I'm obviously delighted for the young man that he's stepped up straight into that senior contract. Very, very well deserved.
And also,
our very Nigel Quigley loves him anyway. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh no problem there. And of course, good news as well. Jude Postlethwaite, again, going up the ranks.
Oh, I think at the minute we're just, it's starting to get to the stage now where look at that, a 2026 contract, that's just phenomenal. I thought, it was great news for Doki when he signed his long extension, but Jude has just stepped the mark again at 2026. It's brilliant. And I'm starting to wonder, and I've had this chat with a few people recently, I just wonder when our established gang come back from illness and injury, where do they fit in? Realistically, we are without doubt in a place we haven't been for many years, where we've got a real strength and depth across a number of different positions. It's going to be real competition. They're going to have to play on the skins every week to qualify for a slot.
Well, put it this way, the way we've been playing at the minute this last wee while, anything like this here could only mean good things for us, especially especially if we're going to be competing at the highest levels in Europe, for the next few years to come. Certainly, as these players come through, I think we've got a hell of a chance. Yeah,
we have, and I think they have the squad, the strength and depth at the minute they actually compete in the two competitions, the URC and of course the Heine at the minute, but also still contribute 8 players to the Ireland squad is just a phenomenal sign. And we'll come to that later on. We talk about it later, and the guys being released back this weekend, blah blah blah. But actually, to have 8 players fielded in the Ireland squad in the Ireland call-ups fab, and still have a really strong contingent to turn out this weekend and last weekend, we couldn't have been there before, and we've still got a huge number of players out injured, like we said. So we're in a happy place, without a doubt.
And a nice wee bit of backup in the front row as well, Mr. Moore.
Absolutely, and that I thought that was going to be only a temporary signing, but obviously he's committed now for 2 seasons, which is absolutely fab. I think it wasn't a loan arrangement, wasn't it?
It was originally, yeah.
So I wonder. Obviously, that's a big step up due to Bradley Roberts moving on. That's obviously going to infill, and that was something that I know Bryn and Dan McFarlane were keen on finding someone who's going to be able to step in for us. So, and he is Irish qualified, is that right?
He is indeed, yes.
He is, so that ticks all those boxes, which is absolutely great.
Well, you know what? Now, considering where we're at and considering where we're going now in the next couple of years, well, it's only fair now that we start talking some URC, and especially that squeaky bum time win against the Scarlets. Now, prove me wrong here, Mr. Brownfield, but did you not describe this this great win as how do we say it? As tight as a crab's behind when the tide comes in?
That's exactly what I described it as tight as a crab's ass when the tide was coming in. That is actually it. And I tell you what, fair play to Scarlets. They played some lovely rugby. Their defence was absolutely classy. And I think I predicted earlier on, I was saying a sort of 37-19 win. Didn't quite go to that. But I tell you what, Scarlets were all the value for being on that park that night. They played tremendous rugby. And it was only the last 20 minutes that we Sorry, I got distracted by a lovely comment.
That's when the wind blows northwest.
Obviously, yes, it's the way the tide comes in. But yeah, definitely, folks. The way our lads were able to play the last 20 minutes, that's something we have not been doing over the last couple of games. We got our 4 European games. The last 20 minutes, we let every side back in, nearly the point of losing that fixture. And on Friday evening last week, the guys literally played the full 80, and it was a real credit to them.
Yeah, I have to admit now, the Scarlets definitely were playing out of their skin. I haven't seen line speed like that from the Scarlets for quite a while. Obviously, there has to be some chat about Mr. Gilroy. Obviously, we haven't heard the result of the sighting commissioners yet, but what's your thoughts on the yellow red?
Okay, at the start when I seen it live time, I actually thought that's a red. I couldn't see any way out of it. I absolutely, in live time, first show, I just thought that's going to be a red. And then when I looked at it in slow motion, like, actually, hang on, the Scarlet's player was literally on his knees as a result of the tackle coming in from behind him. He was pulled onto his knees. And if you actually look at some of the freeze frames that the Scarlet's rugby supporters are obviously ripping the shreds, you can actually see Craig's arm coming around from the right for a wrap on the right, and his left arm was starting to come around the left. It was going to be an absolutely fantastic dominant tackle if that fella had stayed upright, and I think Craic was absolutely within his right to take it. It'll be really interesting. I think a sighting was inevitable. I think Piper, our referee, the timing of it couldn't be worse for him as a ref coming in the referee the Ireland Wales game this weekend. It's going to be really, really interesting, because if the sighting commissioners take action against Piper's decision initially, it's going to really undermine his credibility going into this big fixture, and it might just mean that Ireland will get away with absolutely nothing this weekend, as maybe a little shed of compensation back to the Welsh and the Scarlets.
Ooh, you know what? I think it's going to be very dangerous for Yako whenever we get to Saturday. I very much hope that he has a good game, and that he makes a nice balanced goal. But there's going to be some needling. Of course, there's going to be. We all know that's unfortunately become part and parcel. But you know what? It's going to be. You know what? I'm already looking for it. It sort of made a very tasty tie look even tastier. With the undercurrent.
There's no question, and I sort of think that you put Piper Yako between Biggar and Sexton on the first game of the tournament. I mean, both of those can be flair players in their own right, but have only also got their own little niggle when the time comes. So it's going to be interesting. Chris predicting a red card in the Wales game, odds and that.
well, you would, but it wouldn't be too promising.
That's it. Yeah, and I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see how he controls those two captains.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Obviously, we'll have to make some mention of our European games. To be honest with you, after those European games, I thought to myself, well, hold on, if we can get that sort of momentum, throw that into the Irish guys for the weekend, there's every chance whenever we meet the French eventually, I think we can actually beat them. Considering the number of stars that that those guys have had, and we've managed to come through twice against good opposition. To be honest with you, it's I have actually quite high hopes for for that picture.
I don't think they're on the fair by going to Toulouse. I don't think they've got anything that we haven't got to bring to the table. And I actually think that the guys going to the Ireland camp will only do them good for their development, and everything else. But I also really reckon that we can go to Toulouse and get the win. Okay, and when we come back to Belfast, there is absolutely no reason why whatsoever we can't do the double on them. It's going to be hard to go to France and get the win, but it's absolutely doable with the guys we've got and the momentum and the confidence.
And the amount of meters that Hume and Larry's put together, that's even more than one of Aaron Sexton's running races twice.
I know, but don't get me started about the Ireland selection right now. We've just got talking about Laurie.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Would you look at that? Hold on a minute. Is that Shep in our TMO truck? I tell you. You see, it's a picture of Johnny. That's what it was. You just know it. You just know it's our Joe trying to get in the act here. But. We'll have time to chat Ireland with with our special guest this evening. I'm going to touch very briefly on the Schools Cup. Obviously our big youth competition, and certainly something that it's appealed to me now for quite a number of years. Even now, I still follow Pretoria Royal, now known as Enniskillen Royal Grammar School, and unfortunately, whenever I seen the draw and seen Methodist College Belfast, unfortunately, I had to sort of half guess what the score might be. It was a case of how many points to nil.
A sense of impending doom swept over.
Let's just say very rarely did my old school, and a big shout out to everybody over in Enniskillen. Whenever the words Methodist College Belfast were read out in the draw beside either Pretoria or Enniskillen Royal, it was like, this could be interesting. But mind you, the draw has set up some very tasty ties. Obviously, the big Belfast powerhouse schools, most of them are there. Wallace are in with a good shout this year. And you know what? I think it's about time that we give Schools Rugby a real good platform here, and we intend to do that here on the show, especially now as we run into the build up for the Schools Cup final on St Patrick's Day. For the usual double header.
I'll tell you what might be nice, and it'd be worth having a look to see if we can set up, is maybe to get some of the captains in, for a bit of a chat for the guys that are actually building up towards those semi-finals and stuff. I think if we can get someone in, that'd be a pretty useful thing, and give them a wee bit of coverage as well. So maybe we'll have a chat with some of the guys backstage and see if we can make that happen. I think that'd be great interview.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's. I think we'll be doing that now as a stand item for every year now. Is that we'll make sure to cover Schools Cup and also trophy bowls, subsidiary shields, and also the under-16 competitions as well. Because I know we spoke about that briefly with the manager of the academy when we interviewed him a few months ago, and that was something which we want to explore further. And yes, Gerald, usually the Belfast schools do very well in the cup, to be fair, it's not completely inevitable, but the way I see it, when you have RBAI, you've got Methody, you've got Wallace, you've got Friends, you've got and Ballyclare, they had a bit of a run as well, and to me, it's the future of our game.
Oh, it is absolutely.
The players that we see coming through on that, and even guys like Ballycoon, Hume, Larry, they've all come through that system. They've all come through. We've seen them in School Cup finals, and that's something which we'll touch on later on as well.
No doubt. And is there any chance that is that what Neil Doak's going to be focusing on now that is that where he's going to look at? Is that his development area from memory?
If I remember correctly, yep. That's an interesting comment. Is there probably more strengths in the schools than in Dublin and Leinster? You know what? The Dublin and Leinster schools, they do bring a lot of power, and a lot of the Leinster Academy have come up, through that system as well. So it's going to be interesting just to see, where that ends up. Look, what I'll do is I'll make sure that we get the fixtures for the quarterfinals up. I think I had put them through Gerald's AAL club page, but I'll make sure to put them up through Threebod here as well. So we could certainly do that. Right. Well, look, when we're chatting about schools, when we're chatting about James Hume, Larry, and a few of others, you know what? I think it's about time we brought in our guests and have a good chat. What do you think, Chris?
I think that'd be an absolutely awesome introduction. Let's do it. Let's bring him in.
Right, well, let's see. Well, first of all, let's bring in an Ulster and Ireland legend. The only man who I know who can stand up to a haka and actually just smile on their faces for 3 minutes afterwards, Mr. Willie Anderson.
How are you?
Willie, how are you, sir?
How are you, David? Nice to meet you both again.
And yourself, Willie. You're looking well, sir.
Yeah, and you're both looking very well. Very well indeed.
Thank you very much.
Oh, well, we have
everything in South Wales, Chris?
What was that, sorry, Willie?
How's everything in South Wales?
Absolutely brilliant. I tell you what, we are absolutely missing the academy. There is no question with this last couple of years of the pandemic. The academy not featuring over here has left us with a bit of a drought, and we're not able to. Our voices are perishing here, Willie. The silence is deafening in the valleys.
We had some great crack over there and some great victories as well. It was fantastic.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's just so nice to see those young guns of yours and Kieran's absolutely stepping up into the senior level in their Irish shirts.
Oh, they've been absolutely magnificent, and it's a joy and it's an honour and privilege to actually see them coming through. I'm very privileged to see those guys because they had something different and they brought the values that certainly that I and Davy Irwin and the Jimmy McCoys of this life, you know, and Nigel Carrs and, you know, Philip Rainey's, they relit those values, put it that way. No, not saying the values were gone, but they re-energized those values, and the values of which we always drilled into them, you know, that playing for Ulster is fantastic. And if you play well for Ulster and you win for Ulster, then your world's the oyster, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And out there, Willie, in 2020 during the pandemic, when they turned over Leinster at Ravenhill, Kingspan, you know, that was just the sign of it. And you see that then filtering through into their performance this year against Leinster at the RDS. The confidence, the pride in the shirt, they just don't stop. And you could argue Dan McFarlane's mantra of fight for every inch has got a wee bit to do with that. But, you know, you guys absolutely instilled that passion. And when we had the opportunity to watch those young kids over here against the Scarlets, the Ospreys, the Blues, against the Dragons, you know, you can just see it in spades. They just wanted to go out there and play rugby and absolutely play for their best. We were very honoured to have those games so often over here, you know, and they did turn it on.
No, they were, you know, they were a joy to coach. They were a joy to be part of. Some of them were just genius. Like Michael Lowry is such a good person, and I know it's an old cliched mantra: good people make good rugby players or great rugby players. And I'm delighted, and hopefully now he will get his cap this year against maybe Italy or Scotland or whoever, because you know he's fought for it, and he's just exceptionally fantastic person.
Yeah. In your opinion, Willie, do you think Michael Lowry is a 10 or a 15? I know where I would play him, but what's your opinion as someone who's coached him?
I would be playing him at 10, and
right.
I would be coaching him at 4-10, because I think if he could realize and work on his depths, he would be an exceptional player. And his kicking is out of hand now. It's exceptional, because that was a great concern, you know, earlier on in his career about his kicking out of hand. But you know, I just think he could be a magnificent 10, and that'll be just the area that I just know that he's brave enough to be able there as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the key thing. He's got that. We've seen him taking down Leon Nakawara. We've seen him taking someone down, the giants of French and English Scottish rugby. He doesn't mind putting himself on the line, and his tackle technique is absolutely phenomenal, regardless of who they are. And I think you're right. He's got the bravery to be at 10. I sometimes think the 15 shirt, he's got the space to absolutely wind it up. You know, I'm not sure if 10 might just almost prevent them from.
Yeah, I think. I know that 15 certainly he's done phenomenally well, and I think you know, sides before today or for this year have actually targeted him with high precise kicks, and you know, but his ability to get off the ground now and hang there in the air, which is a phenomenal sort of skill. He's able to do that, and he's so brave in there, and does definitely give him the space to show his skills and his sidestepping and his running. I just love to see him. You know, being able to actually pursue 10 a little bit longer. I just think that, you know, we're not what you call completely massively endowed with number 10s in Ireland at all.
Yeah. So remember, you see that might be a window that's more likely that he could almost kick down that gap and get into that shirt as a result of the short.
I just think, you know, like, you know, after Sexton, if Sexton doesn't play, I mean, like, he is such a talisman for Ireland, and if he doesn't play, you know, it's not that Joe Cabri isn't. He's just different. He's just a different animal. He's more of a, you know, player on the spur rather than setting to the system. And he's got a lot of talent as well, very much a lot of talent. However, after that, you know, I know you've got a fella from Connacht's a good enough wee player as well. But after that, you know, once you lose 2 or 3 players, you know, Sexton injured, Harbour injured, where are you going from that? You know, where's the next where's the fourth down, fifth down?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously see where that window of opportunity would present itself very, very strongly. But you can almost say the same with the 15 shirt at the minute. Outside of Hugo Keenan, there's not a huge number of people naturally putting their hand up. But I've been watching. I thought Balakown on the the last European game. I thought Robert, as you call him, the cat, in your autobiography, but as you name him, cat. I think Robert under the high ball. You were talking about Michael Laurie's hang time. I think Robert is phenomenal on the high ball as well.
Well, his physique, talking to the strength and fitness guys, is way and beyond any other person that they've ever taken, because he's a natural athlete. And by working on it, he's even become even more natural. I'm actually very, very disappointed he didn't make this Irish team. I'm really disappointed for him. I'm gutted for him, because I thought he'd be straight in. I think there's a lot of.
I think there's a lot of people in the same boat. Yeah, absolutely.
I just couldn't understand why wasn't given the nod for this game, because he's the type of player. He's an Irishman. He's come up through the ranks. But hopefully he'll get his run now against hopefully Scotland or Italy or whoever.
Yeah, but what an opportunity for Humie. What an absolutely phenomenal opportunity for James to be on the bench and selected. So they're great.
Yeah, and look, I mean, he is, he's excelled, and he's come on as not only as a rugby player, as a person, throughout the academy, and I think he's willing to learn now as well. And there's aspects of his game which you still have to concentrate on, particularly in defence. His attack ability is magnificent. He just has to make sure that his defence is spot on as well, because. That's where the most of the running is going to be coming down most sides, down the middle of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of think if Luke Marshall can get himself fit, having Luke alongside him to really help him with those lines and those decisions, a bit like having a Darren Cave kind of figure as a sort of a linchpin to really learn from. That loading to them good when Luke Marshall gets back on the park and they can work together and really work on that defensive, decisive stuff.
Yeah, and that's competition as well, and you've got a lot of competition there, and that's the great thing. And you were talking earlier on. I mean, I suppose it's no sort of mistake that I will always say. Like, I would just love to see 15 Ulster men playing for Ulster, as I'd like to see 15 Irish men playing for Ireland. And I'm not being critical of anyone around the country.
That is all controversial there, Mr. Anderson.
It's just something like that's what we had in our day, and like Chips. And the great thing about that is that's when they will fight for every inch until the very last gasp, and that's part and parcel of being an Ulsterman. And we have to nearly double to get Irish men on, or Ulster men on the Irish team.
Yeah, that's been said a few times, and I've sort of made the comment that it seems at the minute harder to lose your shirt once you've got it than it is to play in their shirt.
Exactly, it is. There's no doubt about it.
Shame.
And that's always been the way. But look, in terms of what's happening, I'm very honoured to have been part of their sort of progression. And the great thing about it is I keep in touch with those guys, and they're all humble, good people, and that's the way that's what we want as Ulstermen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that mantra. So absolutely bring that in all day, Mr. Topping.
Look, we're saying we're talking about playing for the Ulster shirt and fighting for a range. I'm going to bring in our other guest here to have a wee chat about that as well. She plays for Craic, plays for Ulster, and also own one half of the great team of Kinnack and Biltong. It is Ilse VAN STADEN. Ilse. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Not too bad. Long time no see.
Yeah, you haven't seen me in a while. But it's good to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's okay. I've been okay. I've been hiding in the TMO truck all year. It's been great. You know, Elsa, well, here, first of all, it's great to see you back on the show, and obviously considering that we've been talking about schools rugby as well. Now, obviously, whilst the Enniskillen Royal Grammar School boys team haven't been doing too well, the girls, on the other hand, have been winning schools cups left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
And
they
you know,
have.
obviously we've seen quite a few contributions to both Ulster and Ireland coming from that setup. Look, as someone who's been playing there for some time now, you know, how do you see the development of the girls' schools game, and how do you think that's affected how people are transferring through into the academies and upwards?
So again, having a girls' schools cup is fantastic. It is bringing players through the likes of Katie Hetherington, who comes from Enniskillen, India Daly, who comes from Enniskillen. They've all come through that setup, and they both play with me at Cook at the minute. And um, it is that thing of getting into rugby at an early age and developing the skills that will put you in stead to be the best possible player you can be. So it's really good to see. Hopefully they can build it up to where we will fill a big stadium with the Girls' School Cup final in a couple of years.
I know. You know what? I'm looking forward to the day where we're having the two cup finals all in one go. Maybe make it the double header, the St Patrick's Day double header, a triple header. Get them all in the one go, and why not?
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's great to see the girls' game, you know, come so far in such a relatively short period of time. In one way, I'm not surprised because we always knew the talent's there. It's just a matter about somebody taking the notion of actually capturing the talent and bringing them forward. And you know, it's great to see a couple of my fellow county people making the headlines with yourselves at Cook. How are you keeping? Because I know you haven't. I know you're going through the wee patch yourself at the minute.
So I am on day 20 of my return to play protocol. So one more day to go. Which I am absolutely delighted with. It's been the longest 3 weeks of my life. I think everybody is willing me to pass this as quickly as possible because I'm apparently a bit grumpy when I am not allowed to express myself on the rugby pitch. Just sad. So yeah, I'm doing well with Cook. We are building and. I know we are currently advertising for a new head coach to take us to the 22-23 season. But so far, it's all positive. We are building. Kanaku is building. The butchery is busy. So hence why I'm still sat in the butchery at like 8:45 at night. But we can't complain. We've got a lot to be thankful for.
So is it fair to say that the meat tenderizer's been getting absolutely battered while you've been off for 3 weeks?
Yeah, I wouldn't say meat tenderizer. It's more to do with there's certain ways that you can swing a 2.5 kilo cleaver that makes you feel a lot better about things. Let's just say you don't want to see video evidence. I've got enough people that thinks I'm like that in real life. We don't need that.
Anger management, Elsa.
No, I don't need that. I'm good, thanks. I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated.
That's a different thing. Absolutely, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, look, Elsa, just I'm just going to touch on the performance of the Irish women's sevens there in Seville, bringing home silver after what was a very, very tight game. I haven't seen a game as tight as it in a long time. You know, it's even tighter than the one against the Scarlets there. You know, for old Crab up there, Mr. Brownfield.
That's right.
But
yeah, they definitely left it a little late, didn't they? I take.
Yeah.
Firstly, those girls have been on the road for quite a bit because they played to Malaga the weekend before, which they performed well, and it's just to show again that what's his name, Aidan McNulty, who's now taken over the coaching duties for the women's sevens. He's definitely bringing in things that's working, and he's developing skills that is much needed within the Irish setup. Ireland is a wet place. It rains a lot. So the development of a good base of running rugby is always needed. And then the girls came out firing. And I know with sevens rugby, it is a case of it's the bounce of the ball and a bit of luck. But those girls put down a marker, and to play like that against a team like Australia, and I know Fijiana was absent, I know the Black Ferns were absent, but they've put down a marker, and they have shown what the Irish women can do. And in a year where we have had a lot of negatives, it's very good to see that the girls are bouncing back. We failed to qualify for the Women's World Cup, which is next or later this year. But it is bringing more girls into a very good showcase of what can happen when you really apply yourself and you build on what you've been given.
Oh, look, absolutely, and certainly for me the standout was Bevan Parsons. Unbelievable, absolutely. Put it this way, even I was actually chatting with Claire Malloy even today, and Claire even, absolutely agreed. Bevan was an absolute miracle on that pitch. The amount of ground covered and so fast too. It was. Put it this way, I think it'd be leaving a lot of the guys in the wake, let alone everybody else. So for me, Bevan was certainly one of the stars of the show. But as you say, it's coach bringing new ideas, bringing in new ways of doing things, and it's great to see the development in that. But look, seeing as you're both here, let's talk Six Nations. It's only a couple of days away. We've seen the team. First of all, we'll bring up the men's team for the weekend against the Welsh. Willie, what were your thoughts when you first seen the team?
Well, I didn't think there was going to be much change, in the vast majority. As I say, I thought the Cat would have got in the wing. I didn't think it'd be much change from the just 12 or 13 Leinster men, because they've been the guys who've been performing so far this year. I just, would have liked to have seen, obviously, somebody represented Ulster on the team, I suppose, from an Ulster point of view,
Ilse, what were your thoughts when you seen it?
Again, I looked at it and it's fairly safe. There isn't much change. It's the same players. He's not making too much of a shake-up. We're a year out from the World Cup, so I don't expect to see a lot of experimentation, except for if he wants to get depth. But they want to also lay down a marker and show that this is where Irish rugby is at in the Six Nations.
Yeah, I just think it's well, Wales could surprise Ireland. They have the ability, even though they're their club sides or their provincial sides or their regional sides are not performing particularly well. I just think they've always got the ability to gel together as a nation, as they did last year. Now, I just think Ireland are on fire at the moment, and particularly when you have had sort of the drilling in of the way they're playing through Leinster and then through Ireland in the home internationals or the autumn internationals, and they're very comparable with each other. They know what they're doing, and Johnny Sexton's pulled the reins there completely well, and that's why I'm saying he's such a talisman for them at this moment in time. And it'll be interesting to see. Well, particularly if they, when they play the scrum halves that they did, has been picked, then they're going to play a fast game. They're going to play a high tempo, fast game, and see can they actually keep going what they've started, which I hope they do, because having had a dirge of British and Irish Lions matches over the summer, it was a joy to watch. a different breed of rugby from what we've had.
Chris, like we sort of thought ourselves that it's going to be, pretty much a sort of makeup from the team that beat New Zealand, maybe with a few changes here and there. Obviously with no James Lowe. What were your thoughts? What were you thinking? Were you thinking do we have so few Ulstermen in the 23?
Well, I must say, I thought initially with Herring's absence, I was like, what's going on? Then I found out today he was injured sometime during the week in training, I think is what's happened there. So obviously, I think on normal conditions, I would expect to have seen Rob Herring at hooker. So obviously, that's one off. But I honestly thought maybe it's the wrong game. Maybe Wales are one of those potential banana skins. They are still an incredibly good side, as Willie suggested. There's some amazing matchups, and just look at the green and red shirts right now. Phenomenal matchups across the park. And I've got this funny feeling that this was probably the wrong match to get some of our Ulstermen in big number. I think, as Willie alluded to earlier, it's likely we'll see the likes of Michael Lowry getting a good run against Italy, which is, I'm going to say, unfair on Michael, because I think he's got the talent to be actually facing the Wales, facing the Englands, facing the Frances and the Scotlands. I just don't know if he's going to get that shout yet. But I think for him to be in camp will only be good for his long-term development. I had a chat with someone earlier on who said there is a big hope that some of our guys in camp do not end up like the Cooney camp, and just constantly going down there, ball bags, holding water bottles, tackle bags, every day of the week, and not getting a run out in the park. But I think the Wales game, getting a win, is Farrell's biggest aim from this one, is starting the tournament with a win, and he was going to play safe all day. I think that's how it's gone.
Yeah, and there's not going to be many changes from up front. Henderson, yes, definitely. I think he is definitely a shoe-in. In my view, he's a shoe-in. And Ty Byrne is a fantastic player as well, and both of them can come off and on, or bench guys, and they can add something to it. Certainly Henderson can come on and add a massive amount to it. But he's also the thing that I kind of worry about a little bit is there's not many leaders in the pack. Henderson is the leader, and there's not a massive amount of leadership in that pack. And I know that sort of our right half is the top leader, but up front there's not a lot of leaders, which Henderson is. So I'm not saying that's going to be a massive factor, but it is a factor.
It is, but if we look at Ty Byrne in recent games has just been sensational, and whether that extends into a leadership type role going forward, who knows? But I agree with you, at the minute he hasn't necessarily got that experience at that level to bind the guys together and just say, right, this is what we're going to do. We've got an upper game, and that's certainly something Hendy can bring to the game all day, for sure.
Yeah, I think this is a winnable game, a very winnable game, and you have to win all your home games, and it's fallen this way, and it's a good way it's fallen this way this year, because to go away to Twickenham and to go away to Paris at the end of the year, those are going to be the real tests, if you ask me. Those are going to be the real tests, because they have to go to France to play in the World Cup. And if France turn up like they did against the All Blacks, that will be a formidable match, and it'll be a real test for our guys to see where they are with their new game plan, because France has been using, well, it's like a field proof type of game plan, Toulouse type of game plan, and they've been at it now for 2 or 3 years. It's not just a 1-year job, because this time last year we weren't playing particularly flamboyant rugby. It was a fairly safety kind of game, whereas this year now they're taking a bit of more of a risk and maybe more decision making on the park rather than set plays or playing to patterns. So I mean, the French will play what they see in front of them, and that will be a great test for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sort of wondering, I mean, France have been building for the World Cup now, haven't they, for the last 3-4 seasons? They've been bringing in their youth. They've been bringing those guys through. and there's almost are Ireland not doing that at the same rate? Is that going to prove a big failure in the next World Cup in 2023?
Yeah, well, I mean, the team that won the World Cup at under-20s level has nearly all come through for France, and they have hung a lot of metal on those guys. They're all still quite young, and this has been their sort of program. This has been their sort of, and like France may not win it this year, but they'll have another year under their belt for next year, because it's next year at home that they're peaking for. Yeah. And that'll be fantastic, because you've got again the All Blacks will have gone away and they'll be smarted, and they will be smarting from their defeats to France and to Ireland. And like you have to, and again, Ireland going down to New Zealand next year for 3 tests, that will certainly be another test of their mettle and where they're at in the world stage, because no matter what, a team to play 12 international fixtures in 3 months, you're going to slow down somewhere along the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just now in mind, we've got news of new sponsors for the women's on Six Nations Championship. Hopefully it'll last longer than 3 minutes, because it's TikTok.
Good luck.
Obviously, this is a huge development, obviously, for the future of the women's game, certainly in terms, and there's the fixtures for the Six Nations. Ilse, what are your thoughts on this new sponsorship deal, and how do you see things going now over the Six Nations for Irish women?
So I think they're clearly setting down a marker of who they target ages that they want to promote the women's game to. So you don't see a lot of 60-year-olds or 50-year-olds using. You don't see a lot of my age using TikTok either. So they're definitely putting a marker down of who their target audience will be. And then the Women's Six Nations is in its own window this year, which has pros and cons. I always felt that when I was playing Six Nations, there was this whole feeling around, this is Six Nations time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Everybody has the Six Nations vibe. Where now that the women's competition, and I think this is the second year where the women's competition is in its own window, mm-hmm. Will have a bigger emphasis on women in sport. But yeah, it's a shame that it's actually been split up, so that you don't have that overall excitement that is brought along by the Six Nations as a whole.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. Like whenever they're all playing at one weekend, it inspires a senior team. If the under-20s won, it inspires the senior team. If the women win, it is, and everybody's talking rugby at the same time. And did you see the girls playing, and people are going along and watching the women's game and the under-20s, and it's just a very unique time, for rugby football. And I must say, I know you mentioned at the start of the year or start of the program, I was so sad to see to hear of Tom Kieran's death today and passing today, because he was such a legend, and like the Noel Murphys and the Sid Millers, and they were our legends, and I'm looking around, where are they now? Where are these guys, the modern day legends? The mentors of people like Tom Kieran, who was on the Lions. He coached on the Lions. Sid Miller coached on the Lions, and presidents of Ireland, and these people were great men and people that I spoke to about rugby. They were passionate about rugby football. and I'm looking around and I'm saying, who do I go to now? Like at Jimmy D, at Tom Kieran, Noel Murphy, or Rolly Meads, and I'm looking, a young coach today. Who does he go to and have a chat about, the real passion of rugby football by people? And it's just, just something that come to my mind, when I see, unfortunately, a man like, he was such a great crack. He was a player's man. He loved his rugby, but he knew his rugby. He was able to express his rugby, and he had such a passion for the game, particularly the Irish game.
Yeah, and I think linking to that a wee bit, Willie, is that the likes of your Tommy Bowes or Andrew Trimbles, who are going to be those people in the future in the next 10, 20 years. They've also got their other businesses to run, their media and bits and pieces, and you sort of think that in the next 10 or 20 years, where's the Three Kings brand going to be with Tommy Bowe? Where will his association be with rugby? Is he still going to be a pundit? Is he still going to be accessible to the young talent coming through, to those up and coming coaches? Say, do you know what? Can you spend an evening with our guys and just spend half an hour in an evening, just sit down and have a chat with our under 16s or an under 18s? I think that those guys need to really be the future sort of mentors, don't they, of the game, and they've got to put themselves out there as people are accessible to the young guys.
Absolutely, and that's why like a young coach like the Willie Falloons, who does he go to and chat to? Not just about coaching, but about rugby in Ireland, or what way to manage people, or those are the kind of things that I learned from Sid, or learned from Jimmy D, or learned from Stuart McKinney, or learned from Rolly Meads, or any coach that I would have aspired. David Hazlett was a magnificent manager myself. And I'm looking around and I'm saying, who are those folk now? Just my.
I have a question for you. I have a question for everybody here, and there's one that I just noticed in the comments. Do you think we should be playing the men's and women's games back to back? Now, I know that experiment has started now in England in the Premiership and the 15s. Do you think that could work for us here as well?
I don't see any reason why not.
I do think it will. I agree. You can't be what you can't see. So if you're playing back to back and you're basically piggybacking on the popularity of the men's game, again, you can't see, or you can't be what you can't see. If people don't see women's rugby, they are not going to be able to take part in it. They're not going to be able to form a bond or a relationship with it, because that is what rugby is. We have all formed a relationship with rugby. Rugby to us is not just a thing that we do on the weekends because we don't have anything else to do. Rugby is part and parcel of your life. It's part of the culture. It's part of where you come from. And you can only develop that if you have people to share that with. And the more people you have to share it with, the bigger the culture becomes and the more people get involved. So yeah. I do think that it will definitely work.
And you just all you have to do is get more men with forks after the game of the first game. Just get more men on forks and get out under the Aviva and get it. Make sure that
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I must say we went about. I think it was before lockdown. Sorry, Willie, go again.
I would gladly stay on and watch the women's game as most of the crowd would.
Yeah,
because
we went.
Ireland is a nation of sporting people, and they just love, no matter what it is, sport, and women's rugby is a sport, and it should be honoured that way.
Yeah, and we went to the last Six Nations, maybe 2020 when we were allowed in stadiums here in Wales. We managed to go to the men's game on the Saturday, and the following day was the Sunday. I think it was most likely Wales Ireland, I think. And we stayed over, and my wife said she had never enjoyed a rugby game as much as watching a women's game. She's reasonably new to rugby as a supporter, but actually she thought the standard rugby was easier to watch. It was free flowing. It wasn't just up and down the pitch, 50-meter kicks here and there and everywhere. It was really good tackles, really good line speed, really good defensive structure, and she loved it. And she was able to go, you know what, that was actually a really enjoyable game to watch. And that was the following day. That was a Saturday, Sunday. But I really think it should be Saturday, Saturday. I think it should be back-to-back. Absolutely, either before the men's game or after. Either or, I've got no problem with that.
And by you saying that, your wife would then allow, another mother or wife would allow their children to play. This is a game my kids can play here. Yeah. It's a selling point.
Well, it's a phenomenal, unique marketing point, and it sells itself because it is such an enjoyable game to watch. And it's just got better and better. The skill set. You just look at some of the phenomenal line breaks that women are making. You're just thinking any man would be happy with that step and pace off the foot. It's just a delight. It is actually really, really enjoyable to watch. We just need more people to embrace it. And I think, hopefully, all of the stereotypes are going to be eventually washed away, and it will be just absolutely easier for everyone to participate in it. And that will be only a good thing for the game. I'm going to just link that to, isn't it great to see Joy Neville on the TMO tomorrow evening for us? Great. I absolutely love Joy Neville's contribution.
Brilliant.
Well, look, guys, I'm going to start wrapping things up here for this evening. But first of all, before we get any further, let's have some predictions. Ilse, Ireland, Wales, what have we got?
Ireland. Everything in me says Ireland, except if Wales can put another red card victory. You never know. I really hope Ireland wins this one. It would be a very good start to this the last, because this is basically the start of the 12-month windows before the next World Cup, where we're starting to put things in place, and again, we all expect big things from Ireland at World Cups, and this is where it starts. It starts with building now. So yeah, Ireland.
Willie?
Yeah, I think it'll be Ireland by at least 10 points. And you never know what could happen on the referee, because certainly he can be pretty strict, and I think Ireland, the way they've been playing, and if they can represent that again or replicate that again, I think they'll win fairly well.
Chris, what do you think?
Ireland will try bonus point win.
And for me, I'm taking Ireland with a bonus point, at least 10 points on them. Even just to get them back for Gilly's red yellow. Where's the bus? Obviously, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Also, I know you've been busy with the Meat Cleaver, but what else is happening apart from the biltong? I believe there's some other stuff in the pipeline.
We're just about Butcher's busy. I've got a couple of other things that I'm doing. So, but it's all in the pipeline. It's all in the pipeline.
Ooh,
I'll make big announcements when it's ready.
Oh, love the suspense. And of course, and Willie, obviously your big crossing the line is doing absolute great business. Hey, hold on a minute. Is that a copy right there?
Much. Yeah,
it's
had fantastic reviews, and I'm delighted. I'm delighted for Brendan as well as myself, but it's done very well, and thank you guys for helping me promote it and etc. and reading it. And Elsa, it's been a pleasure to meet you again, and I wish you all the best with your recovery and your biltong. I love biltong as well.
Well, let me know. I feel a bit like a drug dealer sometimes. I'm like, I'll let you know. And before you know it, you're hooked.
Well, I'm very fond of biltong. Don't you worry. Anything meat, I'll eat it. I'm a farmer's son. I come from a farm, so I know these things.
Well, look, guys, thank you very much for.
Good to see you again, and thank you very much for all your support whenever I was coaching the academy. And David, thank you very much for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you, Willie, and we're looking forward to getting you back on here very soon as well.
Not a problem.
Well, look, guys, thank you very much. Tonight, It's been another wonderful episode of the Ulster Rugby Roundup show, the WhiteWalkers Chat and Craic. It's been brought to you in conjunction with Kanako Biltong, Hellbent, Auto Door Solutions by Nigel Quigley, the Farmageddon Brewery, and Golo Rugby. My colleague was Chris Brownfield. I'm David Topping. Thank you very much for watching. We will catch up with you. Subscribe to our social media channels so you can keep up with the best and brightest from the group. And look, everybody, have a great evening and stand up for the boys in green.
Absolutely.
It's been a while, but I'm coming out of my shell. And I never thought I would fall in love with someone just like you. And nobody here, I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love.